Heather here. This is going to be one of my first episodes doing more of a deep dive into the videos I've seen. This one here, I really think is really one of the main core issues of our society, and which is the education system. And I love teachers. They do their best, but until society really understands how much they are being manipulated, it won't be fixed. And the heart of that is the whole Carnegie, Rockefeller, and all that. And this lady, I was watching this video and I just had to do it. I had to talk about this one first. So we'll go ahead and watch the video and then we'll get into the information that I pulled up for it.
Saying they're brainwashing. Okay, you're saying these people that are experts in brainwashing is using the Department of Education to brainwash our children.
Yes.
What are they after? Why are they doing it?
Well, if you want to move a country from a free individualistic economy,
Which we have.
yes, or had,
Or had, okay.
to a planned economy, you have to do it through the schools. You have to dumb down and brainwash, change the attitudes and values. You have to completely, social engineering has to go on constantly, and many teachers know what I'm talking about. And people are going to say, well, when did this start? And who on earth ever did this? Why would a plan like that be allowed to be carried out?
That's right.
Well, then you have to go back to 1934, which I will do, and we have to go to the three-pronged fork, okay? So I do think that the watershed year, although you can go back to the early part of the century when the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Corporation were deeply involved in education, and that it was decided then that Carnegie would deal with the international part and Rockefeller domestic. They commissioned the American Historical Association to put together a study of the social studies, and they came up with lots of volumes, but I have one little volume, Conclusions and Recommendations for the Social Studies. And basically that little one is an original book. I wish I'd brought it with me. Too bad. But I don't even dare let it out of the house. It's so important. It called for changing the United States through the schools from a free individualistic economy to a socialist, collectivized, planned economy in the New World Order.
It says that in the book.
Yes.
And that book was written when?
In 1934.
By who?
It was the Carnegie Corporation paid for it. The American Historical Association put it together. And
can people get that book in the library?
No. No, they can't. They were very instrumental in getting the Elementary and Secondary Education Act passed, which, as I said before, changed education from knowledge, content-based, academic, to performance-based behavior. And from that time on, because that was necessary for what we're looking at now with school to work agenda is the planned economy is performance-based.
So they're training workers.
They're training
not thinkers, not leaders.
Exactly. At that time, you had a general, Buck Chisholm, a Canadian general psychiatrist, who was a very close friend of Alger Hiss's. And he gave a speech in 1945 to the World Health Organization, which basically recommended getting rid of the conscience.
Wow.
Yes. And he said we would do it through the schools. We would retrain the teachers to be little psychiatrists. He said it is an international system they're looking at. They're going to change the behavior of the children. They're going to change the teachers' training. They're going to do everything. He told them everything.
Okay. You're saying...
So that's a lot of info to take in, right? I know, I understand. So, I went in and I just looked up that book she was talking about. So what Google said was here, the 1934 Conclusions and Recommendations of the Commission on the Social Studies in the Schools, published by the American Historical Association, was the culmination of a multi-year investigation into the role of social studies in American education. So you can see right there, she wasn't lying about it. She knew her every bit of what she was talking about. So the commission, chaired by A.C. Cray and including prominent scholars such as George S. Counts, Isaiah Bowman, Ada Comstock, and looks like Carlton J. Hayes, examined the foundation content and methods of social science instruction in schools. And all this information I'm getting from, looks like it came from this AmericanDeception.com, which is a pretty informative website I've been finding. The key conclusions, the commission found that social studies were essential to preparing the students for active citizenship and understanding the social foundations of American life. So you'll see that this all sounds really great as it goes along, but when you really think about how it's being worded and things like that, you'll understand more. Let's see. The curriculum should integrate history, geography, political science, economics, and sociology to provide a comprehensive view of society. So they're trying to form one view for everyone. Teacher training was critical. Educators needed both subject mastery and pedagogical skills to convey social science effectively. It's weird, it's a weird word, pedagogical. Institutional and societal support, including funding, policy alignment, and community engagement, was necessary to sustain quality instruction. Ethical and aesthetic values should be embedded in social science teaching to foster responsible citizenship. Research and evaluation of teaching methods and materials were needed to improve effectiveness. Major recommendations. The Commission recommended curriculum reform, develop a unified, coherent social studies program that reflects the interrelatedness of social sciences and addresses contemporary social problems. Teacher preparation, expand and standardize teacher education programs in social sciences, emphasizing both content knowledge and pedagogical skills. Professionalization of social science teaching. Establish professional standards, continuing education, and peer support networks for social science educators. So we want to make sure they're all staying on board with everything. Integration of social sciences with civic education. Align social studies with civic training to strengthen democratic participation. Policy and institutional support. Encourage state and local education policies that prioritize social studies and secure resources for materials, training, and evaluation. Research and evaluation. Support ongoing research into teaching methods, student learning outcomes, and the impact of social studies on civic engagement. So the significance of this, the 1934 report was influential in shaping the modern social studies curriculum in the United States schools, laying the groundwork for later reforms such as the National Council for Social Studies standards. It emphasized that education in social sciences is not just academic but a tool for democratic life, requiring both intellectual rigor and moral responsibility. And so that's their decision on what that moral responsibility is, and and what they want that intellectual rigor to focus on. So I went in and I found the whole report on the Commission on Social Studies, and it's 175 pages long. So I'll include the link down the bottom if you want to read the whole thing. But to make it easy, I went ahead and did a summary of sections and chapters. So thank you for the little co-pilot that's built in there, or whatever it is. So for the preface, the report is the culmination of a 5-year investigation from 1929 to 1934 into social science instruction in schools, sponsored by the American Historical Association and funded by the Carnegie Corporation. The Commission produced 14 major volumes, including a charter for the social sciences in schools and the current conclusions and recommendations. The Commission utilized findings from national studies, international reports, and surveys conducted by the U.S. Office of Education, among others. Key contributors included Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, and other universities, as well as the American Geographical Society. So, Chapter 1, Obligations and Procedure of the Commission. The social sciences are uniquely tied to the life, institutions, and aspirations of the nation. The Commission expanded its scope beyond textbooks and curricula to consider broader societal trends, including the transition from economic individualism to social planning. Right there, that's the important key part right there. The scientific method was employed extensively, but was supplemented by ethical and aesthetic considerations. The contributors were President Hoover's Research Committee on Recent Social Trends, among others. On Chapter 2, the frame of reference. The frame of reference includes nature and functions of social sciences, covers history, economics, politics, sociology, geography, anthropology, and psychology. Conditioning factors in American life. Recognizes the interdependence of American and global civilizations, the tradition of democracy, and emerging trends toward social integration. Another key word there. Choices for the future. Advocates for efficient use of resources, cultural enrichment, and the preservation of individuality and democracy. Contributors are Charles A. Beard, George S. Counts, and others. I made sure the co-pilot also included who was responsible for each section and things like that. So if we want to dive even deeper, we can on those specific people, their backgrounds, and their moral character too. So Chapter 3 is about philosophy and purpose in education. Education is an active form of social action rooted in specific cultural and geographical contexts. The Commission emphasizes the transition from individualistic to collective economies and the need for education to prepare students for the shift. So that's a big one right there on how they want to change the frame of reference for everybody, starting in this regard and just moving forward. So everybody think the same, walk the same, talk the same. So, general applications include the integration of social science instruction with other subjects and community life. Contributors here are Merle E. Curdy and Jesse H. Newland. Chapter 4, am I on Chapter 4 or 5? Cannot count for some reason. Yeah, Chapter 4. My room and numerals, it's been a while. Materials should align with the purpose of education, the learner's capacity, and the community's needs. The program should include geography, economics, sociology, I cannot talk anymore, political science, and history, emphasizing the evolution of civilization and contemporary global issues. Suggested organization. In elementary school, it should focus on local and national history, and secondary school study global civilization and contemporary issues. The contributors here are Charles A. Beard, Isaiah Bowman, and Rala M. Tyron. Let me grab a drink real quick because this. Right, so for Chapter 5, Method of Teaching. Teaching methods should balance the nature of the pupil, instructional materials, and the learning situation. Critique of contemporary pedagogy emphasizes the need for substance over formalistic methodology. So, good teaching involves integrating classroom activities with real-world experiences and fostering independent thought. Not really, but contributors here are Ernest Horn and Henry Johnson. Chapter 6, Test and Testing. Testing is integral to education, but should not dominate the learning process. Intelligence test, character test, and classroom product tests are critiqued for their limitations in measuring broader social outcomes. The Commission emphasizes the importance of long-term societal results over immediate academic performance. The contributors here, Truman L. Kelly and A.C. Cray. Chapter 7, The Teacher. The teacher is central to effective social science instruction, requiring scholarship, courage, and vision. Recommendations include better training, fair compensation, and professional growth opportunities. The Commission advocates for the integration of teacher training institutions with universities and the development of unified professional organization. Contributors there are William C. Bagley and Howard K. Beal. Chapter 8, Public Relations and Administration. Schools must navigate complex societal forces, including pressure groups and propaganda. See, they're starting to throw those words in there to make anything other than what they say sound like a negative. Teachers should resist narrow group interests and focus on the general welfare. Recommendations include redistributing power in education, improving teacher status, and balancing local and national control of schools. Contributors here are Jesse H. Newton and Bessie L. Pierce. Appendix A, Next Steps. Excuse me. The Commission outlines steps for implementing its recommendations, including awakening leadership in education, revising textbooks and syllabi, shifting emphasis in teacher training from methodology to content. So instead of the methodology of learning where it was more open, it was put into context where you had to follow this direct reform. Appendix B, the work of the Commission. The Commission was established in 1929 and concluded its work in 1933. Members included Charles A. Beard, Isaiah Bowman, Ada Comstock, George S. Counts, and others. The investigation produced 14 major volumes and numerous studies on objectives, materials, methods, testing, teacher training, and public relations. Appendix C, Dr. Isaiah Bowman's reservations. Bowman expressed reservations about certain statements in the report, including those on political boundaries, individuality, and the integration of Asia into Western civilization. Important dates. So this basically just goes preliminary plan developed by the committee of 9 members that commission formally established, so on and so forth. Let's see, filings of meetings, drafting of conclusions, and then the publication, and then the different contributors and where they were going to school and things like that and who they were. So a lot of this just reminds me of why school, that whole meme with schools and prisons pretty much being the same institutions. One where they're fostering learning and one where they're, fostering punishment. So, and then there's, of course, I can always include that link too. But there's a little article that I found that on that they're just basically asking the why of that. Why do they seem so similar? So, the responsibility of public school staff beyond taxpayer wishes. So this is from that article. This is from a piece of that book as I was scrolling through it that really caught my attention. There's a few of those actually that I highlighted while I was going through the book, and I wanted to touch on every single one of those, but I got the main gist of it right here. So, this statement in the book was that neither can the responsibility be evaded by the contention that the professional staff of the schools should merely respond to the wishes of the taxpayers, the owners of property, the classes of high social respectability, or any other particular group. Reflects a core principle of public education. School professionals must uphold educational standards and constitutional rights, not simply cater to narrow political or social interests. Why this matters. Public school teachers, administrators, and staff are entrusted with the dual role of serving students and the community while also being bound by constitutional protections. This means educational mission over political pressure. Schools must prepare all students for life, not just those who align with the preferences of a particular group. Due process and equal protection. As in Brown versus Board of Education, the Constitution requires that all students receive equal protection under law, regardless of race, religion, or social status. Freedom of speech and expression. Cases like Pickering versus Board of Education show that public employees can speak on matters of public concern, even if it criticizes school policies, provided it not be detrimental to the efficient operation of the schools. Legal and ethical boundaries. Qualified immunity protects the school officials from liability, but it does not shield them from constitutional duties. Curriculum and policy decisions are subject to judicial review. If they infringe on First or 14th Amendment rights, as seen in the challenges to the ethnic studies programs or don't say gay laws. And I'll have all these links in there too, so down at the bottom. So, practical implications. Make sure I'm not missing anything there. Practice align with both state law and constitutional principles. Yes. So, if school staff are allowed to evade responsibility by merely responding to the wishes of any group, it could lead to educational inequity. Some students will receive better preparation or opportunities than others, undermining constitutional rights, suppression of protected speech, or discrimination in policy, erosion of trust. Parents, students, and the public may lose confidence in the school's impartiality. In short, the trinity of rights, the free exercise establishment, and free speech, requires that public school professionals balance community input with constitutional obligations, ensuring that education remains a public good for all, not a tool for serving narrow interests. Although, as you can see, in the Carnegie and Rothschild's doctrine, that they want it to be narrow for their interest. They wanted students to learn one way of thought and one way of learning and being a worker. And he's even stated that he wants a nation of workers, not thinkers. So if you get into too much difference speaking, then they're going to think, well, why is that this? And the teachers aren't going to have any answers because they were taught only a certain way. But I figured I'd bring that all to fold with that video because I found that video very intriguing. There's a lot more. I'm going to continue reading on that whole book. I might even try to find the other volumes. That would be really cool. So yeah, just let me know what you think about all this down in the comments, of course. And if you have any other information that would pertain to this to help dig in deeper, yeah, definitely provide it. And I'll definitely leave all these links in there too so you can find more and things like that. Whew, that was a lot. All right, guys. Well, go ahead and like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Help me out. I'm getting started. I'm hoping to get a better computer and have more video capabilities and things like that without the skipping and all that. So I'll leave the link in to for my buy me a coffee too if anyone